Welcome to the Food Professor Podcast, presented by Caddle, Season 6, Episode 4. I'm Michael LeBlanc.
And I'm the Food Professor, Sylvain Charlebois.
Our very special guest for this episode is James Maitland, CEO of Les Aliments Dainty Foods, Inc., an innovative food company many listeners would know their rice products. That's where they are in my house, and that's how I know them. Them on many grocery shelves across Canada, and as we learned in the U.S. as well. They are the only Canadian rice processing mill in the country in beautiful Windsor, Ontario. Like I said, Sylvain, many would think rice when they think dating, but as the listeners were here, they are much more.
I had no idea. I had no idea. It's great. It's great to have James on, and he's going to be delivering some breaking news about his company. So stay tuned. Great conversation. The only rice mill in the country, but many more stuff that they're doing for sure.
Fantastic. And thanks to all the listeners for continuing to tune in and visit our very active YouTube page. Of course, we've got the entire live session. Well, it's not the entire live session because we don't have our interviews up. It's just you and me chitting and chatting. Exactly. But it's pretty fun. And for anybody new to the podcast, we're going to be talking, what are we going to talk about today? New to the podcast or people who aren't new to the podcast, we're going to be talking about a bunch of stuff today. The big 5 investment fast track list. We're going to talk about Chinese EV tariffs again, Ben & Jerry's, TikTok, and I'm going to finish off with something about Moosehead. New news out about Moosehead that we'll talk about
that's right.
In the pod. So I want to start with talking about the big projects, the fast tracking, the federal government's first 5 for fast tracking, and I guess they said fast tracking because some of them, like the one Darlington nuclear plant in Ontario, it's already they're already working on it, so it's not like shovel it ready. I mean, they're already working on it. So they talk about referring it to an office that fast tracks and makes sure it happens. There's been a larger list floating around the internet circulating. I saw ports. I saw lots of oil and mineral gas investment. You, though, in all of this, haven't seen much for the ag industry. So what did you think about the first elements of the list? And for a country that is really an agricultural superpower, it seems to be I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it seems to be like a bit of an afterthought.
Oh, absolutely. And now, in fairness to Mr. Carney, of course, the Contrecoeur port project is somewhat related to the agri-food sector because they will address some of the bottlenecks down east for sure. It is going to support the ag sector, but we need more infrastructure project to move products around, especially westward to Vancouver. Vancouver is ranked one of the worst ports in the world when it comes to efficiency. And that needs to be addressed. The gateway and corridor strategy needs to be developed even more. And I'm talking from Winnipeg to, Vancouver and to Prince George as well. I mean, those corridors are under capitalized, clearly. I mean, there's always something going on there. And so we need investments. The thing is, Michael, is that I think that Ottawa is... Well, it's a very urban-centric government, of course. But 2, I'm not sure they understand how powerful a few dollars can be for the ag sector versus, other sectors in energy, for example, or even the automotive industry. I've always believed that Ottawa likes flashy, big amounts. But with, say, for example, with $300 million, you can build a new beef packing plant out west, for example, to increase competition and to break up that oligopoly between GBS and Cargill. And that's heavily needed because those 2 other plants, the 3 plants that we have in Canada are getting old and they get shut down once in a while. So, I mean, if you look at some of the different sectors in ag, you can actually make a big difference with little dollars. But I think that Mr. Carney just wants to come out with big bucks, big amounts, saying this is transformational. But at the end of the day, you got to think about rural economies. How are you going to occupy territory? The only way to do it is by actually generating more jobs in the agri-food sector. So you got to be strategic about interconnectivity, for example, the internet, allowing farmers to have access to technologies, blockchains and AI. You have to think about gene editing. You have to think about soil science, animal science. You have to think about also the issue of Churchill, for example, the North. All of these things, I think, should be recognized as major projects, should be on the list at some point.
I'll follow up with a couple of things. I mean, I agree that the politics of this sometimes are guiding decisions. I mean, for half of the decisions, it would just be nice if they got the hell out of the way. I mean, there's approvals in place at the provincial level, and then you got to go through federal approvals for the same projects. That won't cost the taxpayer anything and will make things more efficient. Now, I did want to pick up on your notion. I did want to pick up on your notion because we've talked about it before in the podcast around solutions for example, the beef industry. And one of the solutions was, and I think we were talking about the context of, what can governments do in the face of things like droughts and just natural occurrences that have impacted the cattle industry. And one of the ideas was, well, should we fund opening more processing plants or whatever? And I remember you said you did some research in that it doesn't help. That money going into things like processing plant, A, it's picking winners and losers, and B, it's not sustainable. So let me frame the question for you. There's actually a question in all this. The question is, I'm going to wave a magic wand. You now have the list. You now are the architect of what we should invest in. And let's just say the ag sector, because it's an ag podcast. What would be your first thing that you would put money into if I gave you $1 billion? Is it funding a new beef or pork or protein processing facility, maybe a new crushing facility, a better port, better rail? That one thing that you would say, listen, it's not a magic wand, but this will make the most impact for the least amount of dollars and is most viable.
I wouldn't pick a sector in particular. It's like, picking your favorite child. But okay. I certainly would focus on one sector, which would be processing. It's underdeveloped in Canada. I mean, we can talk about canola crushing, projects that were delayed or paused when Donald Trump was elected. If you remember, it happened in January.
Sure.
I mean, I'd revisit that for sure. We talked about beef, pork in different places in Canada, particularly in Ontario. I mean, there's a project being developed right now, all private money. Now, I'm not saying that government should spend all of it or should subsidize all of these projects, but at least getting people to mobilize or to consider a project like that. And of course, you have the 3 layers of government often involved. And I mean, some of these projects are very difficult to launch because you're dealing with many different regulations, especially if you're federally licensed. And so those are some of the things that should be addressed. And of course, I mean, interprovincial trade barriers. I haven't heard that term in a while. I mean, I think it goes together. If you're building facilities with capacity that has capacity, you want to make sure that these facilities actually have access to a lot of different markets domestically and internationally.
Should we take a page from the Americans and become socialists? The government there is now buying a piece of Intel. They own 10%. They're taking a vig, basically, like a mafia.
It's really weird what's going on, eh?
Well, so they own the means of production. To me, that's socialism. But should Canada get back into that business? I mean, long term, we had Air Canada, Via Rail, CN. We have a long history of this. Is there room for that in the ag sector? Should we go in that direction?
I don't know. Whenever governments play around with market conditions, it doesn't work. I mean, we just saw that with the inflation data recently this year with the GST holiday and then of course counter tariffs. As soon as you start playing around with market conditions, you end up hurting a lot of different folks. And I mean, I'm more of a private sector kind of guy. I tend to believe if you are to build efficiencies and competitiveness, it's the only way to go. So I'd say the important thing for government is to enable conditions to allow the private sector to do its work, its job. And that's about it.
But the argument, right? If we're going to give this company all kinds of taxpayer dollars. We should have a vig on it. We should have a piece. We should have a take. We should get a return on that investment in a direct way. And, it's rewiring capitalism. And as you say, it's not what I expected to have happen, but there you go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, in the province of Quebec, of course, there are many different companies that do have the government is involved, because the Caisse de dépôt is actually the pension plan for Quebec, and they actually invest in different companies,
Sure.
especially in ag. And whenever they do
supply
that,
management, really? Supply management is a way of government intervention into markets.
Oh, marketing boards, some marketing boards, but supply management is certainly one way to do it. And of course, supply management fans will say, no, government's not involved. Well, it's protecting you, really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's what we're trying to do with EVs as well, right? And and again, if you want to become a global player, at some point, Canada will have to commit to a global agenda, like for real.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I remember my discussions with New Zealand in the summer. I mean, their language is completely different. I mean,
I love how you described them. What was it you described them? They're an export oriented, or you had a particular phrase for it.
Very much.
Yeah,
they're very export oriented. It's an open economy, and they've accepted their fate in being in the middle of nowhere. I mean, they had to work to sell their stuff, and they still have to work to sell their stuff. We do not have to work to sell our stuff. Now we're going to have to, because we just realized that the United States of America may not be as reliable as we thought they were. And so, but let's face it, if you talk to any ag companies in Canada, they will tell you, and it's been like that for years, it's never been easy to deal with the Americans. Never. And that's going to continue. So let's actually take this opportunity and look at other markets. In 2025, we'll now have 4 billion people in the middle class. And of the 4 billion people, 2/3 will be in one region, Asia. And if you look at our top 20 partners, I'm struggling to find anybody in Asia right now. That's what we need to do. That's what we need to change.
Well, that's a great segue to the next thing we want to talk about, staying in the political economy. Scott Moe talking EV tariffs. He's now kind of signaling, boy, this is actually going to be kind of tough. It's complicated. The U.S. ambassador, I noticed in his recent comments this week, specifically thanked Canada for those EV tariffs, which, of course, coming from that group of characters is really a veiled threat. It feels like we got a long, long road ahead of us with China. But some positive news, right? We had some positive news this week from China. They paused.
Well, I saw Scott's Moe comments, and they were incredibly appropriate. I mean, he just came back from China with Cody Blois, and it's complicated. Of course, it's complicated. And my guess is that we'll end up with some sort of compromise. But you just can't carry on protecting sectors against China, because China will always go after our ag sector because they know it hurts. And now, I mean, I must say, the Carney government is showing more support towards canola and our canola growers than we've seen in years coming from Ottawa. By the way, oh yeah, absolutely. And so, there is this recognition.
You and I disagree on something. You think it's protecting a sector. I guess both things, you and me, can be both true. Protecting the EV sector. I think it's protecting the overall deal with Americans. And the comments from the ambassador to Canada basically reinforced, yeah, thanks for coming along with that. Because if it wasn't, nice country you got there, shame if something would happen to it. So I don't see it as protecting a sector. I see it as protecting the overall relationship with America.
Oh, of course. Absolutely. But now, since October 2024, our relationship has changed a little bit. We have new tenants in both 24 Sussex and the Oval Office in Washington, and I think world economic dynamics have changed as well, and so we need to adapt at some point. But regardless what the Canadian government will do with EVs, they will have to chat with Washington first. But I do think that there's a compromise to be made here. I just don't know what it is. But there is a compromise to be made here because, I mean, the Americans will have to start to understand that we need to start, working with other people.
Let's talk about TikTok. So, announcement of a strategy framework. I've been hearing Larry Ellison is a big player. Briefly last week, he was the richest man in the world. He can throw off money like almost nobody else can. Maybe Elon Musk. Hot Hands Besant. Hot Hands with all the stories about him picking fights and swinging hands. God, what characters. I know. They seem to announce that we're close, but they're really just pushing the deadline down. They're pushing the can down the road. My sources tell me there's not a deal to be had. You just brought it up because I thought you made such a great, interesting point. Remember that cranberry ad, that cranberry viral thing that went viral and
5 years ago.
5 years ago.
Week.
Incredible, right?
Yeah, 5 years ago. And every now and then I actually, talk about products getting their TikTok moment. And in food, we've seen several cases over the years, right? Every now and then you see a cucumber getting its TikTok moment, different candies, chocolate, whatever. And but the most successful food-related TikTok moment in history happened 5 years ago. The cranberry guy, on a skateboard, drinking cranberry juice, ocean spray, cranberry juice, and of course, as a backdrop, so Fleetwood Mac. And so, it was so that video was actually viewed, get this, 2 billion times.
2 billion times.
Yeah. But ocean spray. I mean,
I watched it about 100 times. So, because and it spurred so many things. I mean, it's just this wild thing.
Fleetwood himself actually did redid the same thing, right? A week or two later, and I think a lot of people had fun with it. And of course, the person who did the video received a truckload of cranberry juice
for 2 billion impressions.
Well, of course, it was great marketing, but Ocean Spray was never transparent about how sales went. I've been trying to find out exactly, but my guess is that it was a bit of a game changer for them for sure.
Only comes along once in a while. Well, listen,
TikTok is quite powerful. Yeah,
it is, and it's powerful when somebody puts the thumb on the scale too, in terms of what it's talking about on TikTok. So we can get into that debate, but that's down a rabbit hole we shall not go. So let's talk about inflation numbers, and we'll take our break and get to our interview with Dainty Foods. You mentioned inflation numbers early on. The Bank of Canada this week announced a drop in the interest rate of 25 basis points. And what did you observe from inflation numbers? And I heard the Fed as well dropped a quarter point as well. So what do you make of just this economic news?
It's been an interesting story, both sides of the border. Typically, when rates drop, it means that central bankers are concerned about the economy overall. We may be going in the wrong direction. So I kind of see that happening. Numbers are softening here and there. The job market in particular, not doing well. The thing is that, I mean, the bottom line is that you have a bunch of companies just parking their money, not investing because of the uncertainty. And so of course, with the tariff bonanza, that's really what happened. A lot of companies are just waiting, and that hurts the economy. And so I think that just central banks are just incentivizing the private sector to invest and to get the economy going. So the onus is on the private sector to get things going again, which I do think it's a good thing. From a consumer perspective, of course, with lower interest rates, that's always a good thing. And my guess is that Jerome Powell will keep his job because he just made Donald Trump happy with lower rates.
His job, he's almost done, right?
5 years ago, it was unheard of to hear politicians trying to intervene in fiscal policy, not in monetary policy. But now, It's just, it seems acceptable.
We can have a whole podcast on unheard of things coming from our friends down south. Anyway, it's a new reality. I did want you to touch upon, though, inflation numbers. So how is food inflation looking? I in my U.S. podcast, they're now talking about the cost of coffee, and they're talking about some inflation numbers in food that seem to be heating up. How is it here in Canada? It's
really interesting, to be honest, because so I looked at the numbers yesterday and I thought, wow, counter tariffs are all over this. I mean, so other than meat, because meat is very much about the drought and cattle producers selling off and inventories being low. So we've talked about this before. Yeah, and meat prices are up more than 10%, so that's fine. But when you start looking at the list, cookies, crackers, spices, nuts, citrus, coffee, tea, confectionery, sugar. I mean, I could go on and on and on. All of these products are +5 and up, and coffee and tea are +20 and up as well. And those are the ones that really got higher the most, and those are tariffs. So I did a couple of interviews yesterday and outlined, because they asked me, why do you think prices have gone up? Well, it's counter tariffs. They never replayed that. They focused more on the meat story, which I thought was really telling. I actually think that media is just avoiding the issue of counter tariffs because it's now so politicized. And frankly, I think a lot of people still believe that counter tariffs, Mark Carney's decision to let go of counter tariffs on September was the wrong decision. But I mean, I don't know if you agree. I mean, it was just an awful decision from the beginning on March the 4th. If you want to apply counter tariffs, fine, but don't touch food. But they did. Ottawa did. Yeah. And so penalized. Rice was affected by, and Dainty actually could speak to that for sure. James could speak to that. Rice was impacted by counter tariffs for a while, not anymore. And we saw a jump in prices. I mean, so it's really unfortunate that politicians are downplaying the impact of counter tariffs, and that the fact that media is not really telling the story to Canadians, to me, it is so obvious that it's disappointing, because I think, and I wrote an op-ed this morning about it. It was published by Post Media. And I do think that people need to understand that really policy can actually make things more expensive for you and I.
Well, we're telling that story, and that's why we're here, and that's why people continue to listen and follow us. And
that's it.
Unfiltered, somewhat apolitical, kind of, sort of. But anyway, we tell interesting stories. I'll tell you what,
I mean, I gotta give credit to Mark Carney here, and because I do think that he understood that he had a pickle here. I mean, he had a problem, and on the one side, he knew that counter tariffs were a bad idea, but on the other hand, he knows that his base felt it is a good idea.
No, well,
so he dared, and I think that time will reward him, because food inflation. Hear me now. Food inflation in September will be lower.
Well, that's wonderful news. Speaking, by the way, of pickles, I made my own pickles. I got all excited from all of our conversation about pickles and cucumbers. And in first time in my life, I made a batch of simple pickles.
You like to
and oh my God,
pickles,
they were good,
don't you?
You were asking me what kind I like. I took like 10 Bud's garlic. I took a big thing of dill. I put some chili flakes, some mustard seed, a few other little things in, and boiled some water, which is vinegar and salt, and poured it in, waited a week, and they came out, they were delicious. So putters. I'm no Bix. I'm certainly no putters. But I made a jar of pickles. So, I can survive the zombie apocalypse. There you go. All right, let's move on to our great interview, James Maitland from Dainty. But before that, we're going to hear from our wonderful, wonderful presenting sponsor, Caddle. Need fast, reliable Canadian shopper insights? Meet Rapid Response, Caddle's most popular survey tool. In just 5 questions, you can reach any audience in Canada, French, English, or both, with results delivered in as little as 5 business days. Whether you've got a big retailer meeting coming up or need quick, credible data to guide decisions, Rapid Response gives you expert research and a powerful Excel-based dashboard, all for just $2,500, with subscription options that can save you even more. As a listener of the Food Professor podcast, your first Rapid Response is free. Just email at insights@caddle.ca and mention the Food Professor. That's insights@caddle.ca. James, welcome to the Food Professor podcast. How are you doing this morning?
Absolutely fantastic. Thanks for having me.
We've been looking forward to having you on the pod for literally a couple of seasons. It's kind of we've missed each other. We're ships passing in the night a little bit. So we're really thankful that you could join us this morning. Where are we finding you?
Today I'm in Windsor, but myself and my team, we're heading up to Huntsville tomorrow for our annual planning retreat.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your background? How did you become who you are in the business world, and what you do for a living today?
I was born and raised in Toronto. Grew up my teen years in Brampton. Played a lot of soccer and a lot of hockey growing up. That gave me the competitive edge and leadership edge, and I got a fantastic start with a great company known as General Mills in operations. Mm-hmm. And I was lucky enough to experience some private equity dealings early in my career, which showed me a lot of rapid growth. It was, I've been very blessed, very lucky to work with some great leaders. I grew up through operations mostly, and then slowly started taking over marketing and sales roles throughout my career. Have been with big CPGs like General Mills and Maple Leaf Foods, and then some small flexible companies like Kitchen Partners and Dainty Foods. I joined Dainty Foods in 2019, moved to the Windsor area, had a few different roles within the company, COO, leader of the operations, and in 2022, they made me CEO. And from there, I've had the pleasure of supporting the Dainty team for the last 3 years and getting ourselves lined up for some amazing growth. In our next 5 years, I'll be leading the North American team as we form a new business in the U.S. and continue to grow.
Oh, that's exciting. Now, you started to talk a little bit about Dainty. I can't imagine anybody who hasn't been in a grocery store in Canada wouldn't recognize the name or certainly the brand, but tell us more, scope and scale, and for listeners that maybe aren't in Canada, tell us about Dainty.
Love to. Dainty's Canada's only rice mill. We started in 1882. Robert Reeford, an Irish immigrant, started out in the Port of Montreal importing rice from all over the world. From there, he grew the business significantly, and we invested in Windsor in 1967. We've been family owned and run our entire existence. We were bought by the Marbourg Group in 2015, a family-owned company. The Bourgeon family, based out of Marseille, France, owns us now. Still very much a family-run business. We operate a 150,000 square foot facility here in Windsor. We have a flour mill, a rice mill, full capabilities that you would see in any other rice or flour mill around the world. We import rice from all over the world. Jasmine from Thailand, basmati from Pakistan and India, and some of our long grain rices out of the U.S., primarily Arkansas. We have a fundamental belief that we bring in authentic rice from the origin countries, mill it in Canada, and package it in Canada to serve the Canadian market. Our brand has been growing very, very well over the last 6 years with great partnerships with Canadian retailers. And we've most recently invested about $25 million into our Windsor facility, into some new retort technology. And we are about to announce in the next couple months a new U.S. facility that will be sinking roughly $50 to $75 million into over the next 4 years to support the growth of our company.
Fantastic. I have a quick question for you. Why Windsor? I mean, there's a lot. It seems like you need to be a place where you can get really easy inbound shipments of goods. And from a distribution perspective, I was thinking Windsor because of serving. Typically, Windsor is like a great place to serve like the U.S. market. But why, if you know the history, why was Windsor chosen?
2 reasons. One, Windsor was in growth mode back in the 60s, so they made it extremely attractive for us to come. It was in the right geographic location. Obviously, a lot of our rice comes from the U.S., so it had the rail infrastructure to support that. But one of the primary reasons is one of our largest customers when we built this facility in the 60s and throughout the 70s and 80s was Kellogg's in London, Ontario. We used to mill their rice for their Kellogg's Rice Krispies way back when. And the proximity to our largest customer made a lot of sense at that time.
I forget that there's rice in Rice Krispies. Isn't that funny?
When did that plant close in London?
You'll have to forgive me. I think it was 2013, 2014.
Yeah, I had 2013 in mind, so I think you're right. Yeah, absolutely. It's been a while already. So what's your best seller in rice? Is it basmati rice for Canada?
For Canada, basmati and jasmine. Neck and neck. Okay. It really depends on the market, what side of the country you're on. Basmati does extremely well in Ontario, where jasmine does better in the West. And then our long and wild is a very, very close number 3. That does very well in Quebec and the prairies.
Now, the announcement that you just mentioned, is this public or is this a premiere for the Food Professor podcast?
It's a little bit of both. We haven't officially committed to which site we're going with yet. We meet with our board at the end of this week to give our final recommendation and get their blessing. But it's been known in the industry that we were investing in the U.S. We've made that public as of last year. It's, and our group is extremely strong when it comes to the ready-to-heat pouches and the ready-to-heat retort capabilities. We're a global leader throughout Europe and the UK, and we brought the same technology and know-how into North America. So it's we're not going to be investing in dry rice capabilities in the new facility. It's all about our retort products and our ready-to-heat lineup.
That's it. Well, congratulations. That's great for the company and for the Canadian economy. Could you explain to our audience what retort means? You mentioned it 3 times now, and I don't exactly know what that means, retorquing.
Yeah. So it's not a new TikTok dance trend, that's for sure. It's
it might be now.
It could be. It is essentially a cook and bag sterile process that uses pressure heat to cook rice, pulses, grains, and other products in microwavable pouches. So you notch the pouch. You'll see our brand in retort pouches. You'll see Ben's, famous Ben's Bistro throughout Canada in the similar packaging. But that is the process, and that is the main methodology that we use for this type of product. But our specialty is not only rice. Being a rice company, we figured out a long line of products that can go into the pouch format or the bowl and cup format that give Canadians a fantastic product at a price that's economical, and of course the convenience. We all know how it is to have kids in sports these days, and parents are kind of high-fiving each other going out the door as one daughter's going to volleyball and another son's going to hockey. We're very proud that our team across the globe has figured out the quality and recipes to bring a very positive eating experience in seconds to the plate.
Is rice becoming a staple in a growing number of households in Canada, or is this just something we hear here and there?
It's absolutely becoming a staple. We look at rice in 3 different categories. We look at food service, bulk bags, and of course the retail, the everyday retail segment. We look at that as the 4 kg packaging and smaller. So what we consider big bags are the 7 kilos, 8 kilos, 10 kilos you see on pallets in stores. That category and that segment is definitely growing. We're seeing the traditional smaller pouches of rice, the lesser than 4 kgs, growing, but not at a significant rate, like 1 or 2% year over year.
And that's due to what?
I think time. Time and convenience is a big piece of it. The growth of rice not keeping up with, I'll say, the rest of the center aisle in stores has really been about one, other options, center store that are more convenient. 2, a lot of people just don't know how to cook rice. A lot of people have struggled with cooking rice properly. A lot of people don't know how to dress it up. And that's why we're seeing such significant growth in the convenience section, where you don't just get plain rices in a bag. You're getting flavored rices like a lemon and herb basmati or a lime and cilantro or other pulses and grains mixed in to hit your protein macro requirements. And it's easy, right? It's a 1/4-inch tear on your pouch, microwave it for 60 or 90 seconds and pour it on the plate.
I'll ask a question about geopolitics, and I'll throw it back to Michael. Obviously, in the last several months, we've heard a lot about tariffs and geopolitics. How have tariffs in general affected your business?
A lot of sleepless nights in the beginning.
I imagine, yeah.
A little bit about Dainty economics, with not outboring you too much. About 50 to 60% of our sales are in Canada, and another 40% go back across the border to the U.S. In forms of our ready-to-eat pouches or industrial flour or industrial rice products. So for us, when this all came out, we were looking at being on tariffed on both sides of the border. And there's not too many commodity businesses that could absorb a 50% hit. We were able to make a case as Canada's only rice mill that we were bringing in rice for processing. We don't buy necessarily finished rice or packaged quality rice that a lot of our competitors do. We buy rice for processing. So we mill it from brown to white, polish it, run it through our optical sorters and our sieves to make sure it meets all the Canadian Food Inspection standards, as well as our global food safety initiative standards. And we were able to make a case with the Canadian government to say Canada doesn't grow its own rice. It doesn't have the climate to truly support that. So everybody in this country would be subject to these tariffs. And on a commodity basis, it would be a killer for the rice industry in Canada. So our government saw that, saw us as someone who wasn't importing finished goods. We were a processor, and gave us relief on tariffs.
That's a very sophisticated approach to convincing the government that's great news that it worked. I mean, the simple fact is, we're not going to destroy any kind of industry in terms of growing that doesn't exist or can't exist, at least until climate change in 20 years, or maybe we'll keep an eye on that. So that's kind of a dovetail into things like sustainability and innovation. Let's talk about sustainability and innovation. What does innovation look like as you sit down, your team sits down with a whiteboard and says, okay, we've got our staples. You've already described some of it, but what's the process? What's the tradecraft, and how do you approach it? Do you work with your partners like your grocers? So what do you think customers are asking? Do you ask Canadians? Talk about that for a bit.
Absolutely. I've been blessed with an amazing team here, both from a marketing perspective, sales and product development, as well as our operational team. Everybody at Dainty Foods behaves like an owner. Our process is a little bit unique. Our marketing team takes the lead, and we sit back and we have innovation sessions with our entire salary team, where we'll throw up a concept where our sales teams come back with a need in the market, i.e., we're launching a new brand called Timewise here across Canada in the fall. And Timewise all started with, what do we see as gaps in the market? And it started off as, rice pastas that are ready to heat or ready to eat. There is a significant gap. So our product development team looked at the market, our marketing and sales team pulled some information. We said, what's on the market for pastas and retorts? We weren't happy with the quality. Secondly, we have the technology and capability to do so. So our team in Canada started working with our team in France, developed the right types of pastas for this process with the supplier. We went to market, met with a variety of retailers across Canada, and we came out with 3 very simple concepts to launch under our Timewise brand. And we did a penne Alfredo, a tomato basil rotini, and a wonderful mac and cheese. And it's September today. We were ready to present this to market in June, and we've had take up across 80% of the market. So we will have our listings fulfilled through September, October, depending on our partners' planograms. But people are going to see Timewise across Canada very, very quickly here.
Oh, that's very exciting. So congratulations.
Our product development process is a little grassroots sometimes, but we really believe that, our team members are our customers. We're trying to support them and their families and their lifestyles, and we listen to them very, very attentively with some of their concepts and ideas. And our product development team just has the capability and know-how to bring those to life.
Now, as you've been saying through the pod, you've got the only processing plant in Canada. So what are some of the unique opportunities and some of the challenges that you face running that operation in Canada or even in Windsor? You've talked, I guess, a little bit about the good rail access and all these things, but are there any challenges that you face around keeping that plant in Windsor?
There's always challenges within every business. I'll start with the positive first. Is we've got a phenomenal brand in our category when we think about Dainty. Yeah. The Nielsen data actually just showed us moving into the number 2 position for the dry rice category that we look at with less than 4 kg sizes. So, there's a lot of positive in being Canada's only real authentic rice brand. Being able to support the market properly through all of this geopolitical turmoil and all of these world events. We were able to keep the shelves full and support our partners during COVID. We have a great working base here in Windsor. We have a phenomenal team on the floor all the way up through the leadership team. So there's a lot of positives there. Rail infrastructure in the Windsor area is fantastic, so that gives us an advantage. The biggest disadvantage is we are a rice mill in Canada and we're far away from the farms. So the rail infrastructure definitely gives us an advantage. The mill allows us to buy rice for processing at a far more competitive cost than our people would have to buy finished package quality from our competitors. But Canada's infrastructure and cost of doing business is also higher than a lot of the areas that we compete against. So i.e. a mill in India pays pennies on the dollars for their overheads and their costs to put the rice in a bag. But we both pay the exact same freight to bring basmati from India to Canada. So there's good and bad with it. I believe our global food safety standards are higher than our competitors throughout the world. I think there's a lot of trust that Dainty's built with consumers over the last 140 years that make a very clear-cut advantage for us having a mill in Canada.
It is incredible. I mean, 140 years, that's a long time for sure. Do you feel the pressure of honoring that legacy as CEO? I mean, it's long-standing brand. We see your product in many stores around the country. I'm sure that there is some pressure that comes with that legacy.
I wouldn't call it pressure. It's respect for the legacy. The Reeford family throughout the Montreal area and throughout Canada have been ambassadors within Canada, not just with Dainty Foods, but with charities, local improvements, and other businesses. So there's a tremendous amount of respect for them. The great-great-granddaughter of Robert Reeford, Nicola Reeford, who I believe both of you know, still works with us today. She's the chairman of our board and director of marketing. And I see her as a business partner more than someone that we need to kind of idolize or be cautious about. It's a very fun family atmosphere here, and we're always putting the Dainty values in front of us for everything we do. So it's the company structure and the leadership from our management team really make it easy to respect that history and respect all of those accomplishments of the last 140 years.
So looking ahead as CEO, what are some of the biggest opportunities for growth, whether it's in Canada, North America, internationally? What's on your dashboard for growth?
Our growth here in Canada is launching the Timewise brand in our ready-to-heat pouches. That's happening this fall. We have some distribution opportunities in Western Canada to bring our brand out there. In big, bold, basic numbers, we expect our dry rice category to grow another 30% over the next 4 years.
Wow.
And we have the team to do so. We've invested in 50 million pouch capacity in Canada. We've all but sold that out already. We're investing in another 200 million pouch capacity into our U.S. facility, and we expect that to sell out over the next 4 years as well. But we're not done there. We have quite the pipeline of innovation that we're excited to be rolling out in the next couple of years. Everything from packaging innovation, further innovation around sustainability, like regeneratively grown rice, innovation to make cooking dry rice even easier or dressing dry rice up even further. And then, of course, on our ready-to-heat pouches, we're expanding just beyond the realm of rice into pastas and to other flavorful sides I can't talk about yet, but they'll be coming to market in the next year and a half that will drive a lot of excitement.
You're going into the pumpkin spice thing, aren't you? Yes. Secrets. Secrets are coming out.
Well, stumbled across something.
James, thank you so much for joining us on the Food Professor podcast today. Again, congratulations on your success, and I wish you all the best for your retreat in Huntsville.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. It was a pleasure to be here, and look forward to chatting again in the future.
All right, we're back with a couple of things. Breaking news this week. We recorded this on yesterday, Wednesday. Ben & Jerry's co-founder steps down. He's just had enough of the meddling from Unilever about their impact and social impact. Of course, I'm not sure what they expected. Maybe they were told they wouldn't be inferred upon, or they wouldn't be messed with.
He's been around for 50 years.
Yeah, I don't know how anybody would believe that a big company like that wouldn't start messing when you went and continued, whether you liked their progressive views or not.
I don't know how
that
he
was part of the
lasted
brand
that long, to be honest. Yeah, I know exactly. I mean, it was acquired by Unilever 10 years ago, I would say. Yeah. If so, I mean, it was just bound to happen, really. And so,
and of course,
but the question that I have for you is that do you think it's going to change Ben & Jerry's now?
Oh, I think so. They got him out of the way. But will it change the product, or will it change the marketing, or does it just become another unremarkable line of product, right? That's
Ben & Jerry's, I mean, right? When you think about the Ben & Jerry's, when you think about the values behind the brand, I mean, these values were embedded in the founders. Right. I mean, founders.
That's why they bought them.
Exemplify exactly. Now they're gone. One of them is gone, anyways. So it was really. I don't know what's going to happen. To be honest, will people move away or move on? And who knows?
Do they care anymore? I mean, it's a great question.
Maybe
Does anybody care anymore? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if you like Cherry Garcia, if you're a fan of Cherry Garcia, will you stop eating Cherry Garcia? I don't know.
It's still probably going to taste like Cherry Garcia. I don't know. It's a good question.
I must say, I can't remember the last time I had Ben & Jerry's.
No, I'm not a big fan, not for any other reason than I like Canadian Chapman's and, Kawartha Dairies. I had some Kawartha Dairies up north. Delicious. And Moose Tracks, Kawartha Dairies. And these are great Canadian brands, and I enjoy their products. So I tend to go that direction. All right. Anyway, last couple of things. Convenience stores. Convenience stores are, and just kind of a funny headline, eating fast food chains breakfast. Now, this is something, though, I saw. I was at a Convenience Store Association conference, which is just a bananas conference, by the way. Like, it's just, because convenience stores are really, while there's a couple of big convenience stores, ones we would know, it's, a lot of them are indies and, independent retailers, and they were all amassed there, and it was like a conference in the 70s. But you really got the sense that there was an opportunity, particularly amongst the Flying J's and the 7-Elevens and the Buc-ee's, to take it to another level that became a destination. And I was thinking, you go there for a bunch of reasons, and they all wanted to step up their food selection, their food assortments, and it looks like that's happening.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I was intrigued by the article. And to be honest, I kind of believe it. The 3 meal institution is, I think, put into question by the younger generations. They see breakfast differently. I don't know about you, but I think a lot of Canadians are fasting and just skipping breakfast, and they're going to lunch, or if they do breakfast, it's going to be on the go, and they'll be inspired by whatever they see at a convenience store. And convenience stores, and this is ACT's legacy, Couche-Tard's legacy. I actually, making making that. So of course you got the Starbucks being the stop between home and office. Well, convenience stores are becoming that too, I think, and they see an opportunity as people are trying to fuel up, or they're getting their fix as they go to work or they commute to work or when they go back home and things like that. So I do think, and McDonald's, in the article, it says that McDonald's sales for breakfast is down. That's a bellwether. I mean, if McDonald's is selling fewer breakfasts, it means there's something going on here. And so I think there is an opportunity for convenience stores, because you can get other things at the convenience store. You can get gas, you can get other things, a lottery ticket, whatever makes you happy. But those are things that McDonald's can't compete with, really.
Big news to wrap up coming out of New Brunswick. Andrew Oland, the CEO of Moosehead Breweries, announced that's it for glass bottles. The iconic green glass bottle.
Green
of the Moosehead
glasses, yeah.
I love Moosehead. I love Moosehead beer. They are shifting entirely to cans. Now, they talk about in the article, and I would know this to be true. You and I are going to a very good brewery Thursday when you're in town. I'm going to take you to the Henderson Brewery, which is fantastic, right beside the Tyronies. I picked it so we could do those two things. But they talk about the quality of the beer being better. The aluminum in the aluminum cans keeps it better tasting, less deterioration in the product. But you got to drop a tear for. I dropped a tear when we got rid of the stubbies, and I dropped a tear now when we're going to get rid of the green bottle. So what do you think when you
dropped a tear for the stubbies?
Yeah, I like stubbies because they were unique. They were uniquely Canadian. A little stubby of beer. I like stubbies. I grew up on them.
Well, it was just a matter of time. I think. What's kind of interesting right now is that aluminum is actually more expensive.
Right. I thought it was going to go in the opposite direction. When I saw the headline, I thought that the opposite was going to be true, that because of the cost of aluminum, we're going to go all glass.
Glass is less popular now, and we're actually joining the Americans. And the Canadian market was unique in that way. We're just basically going in the direction where the market is. Well, Moosehead is going in the direction where the market is going, and more people are looking for cans. And many microbreweries only opted for cans, and so it has had an impact on beer demand, and people are looking for cans and beer bottles. And my guess is that at some point you may actually start seeing other major brewers avoiding the glass, and I'm thinking about Heineken, Molson. I suspect that, and frankly, it's heavier. And when you think of transportation and the space that it takes on shelves and things like that, so those are things that I suspect that companies are thinking about.
Now, to celebrate or to commemorate, I guess, they're having a last bottle competition. So the biggest fan gets an opportunity to own the final bottle on the production line. You get a trip to wonderful New Brunswick, and you get to see it come off the shelves. All right, well, that's our show for this week. We'll be back next week, and every other week. You can depend on us on a weekly basis. We got the great guests, we got the best guests, and more guests keep signing up to be on the show. I'm Michael LeBlanc, consumer growth consultant, advisor, media entrepreneur, keynote speaker, and a bunch of other things. And you are?
I'm the Pooh Professor Sylvain Charlebois.
Safe travels, everybody.
Take care.